The most important decisions in an election aren't always the ones made in the voting booth. Before a single voter can cast a ballot, hundreds of details need to be hammered out about where, when, and how the voting will happen. In North Carolina this year, courts struck down a restrictive voting law that was judged to be racially biased, and it left more questions than ever. Jay Caspian-Kang went to North Carolina to see how an election is made from the ground up.
Jamie Cox is the lone Democrat on the Orange County Election Board. He represents a county that's home to the University of North Carolina and a Democratic stronghold. But in this Republican-controlled state, the governor's party appoints 2 of the 3 members of county election boards. So Jamie, like Democrats on each of North Carolina's 100 boards, is outnumbered.
All right, we're heading out.
When it came to early voting plans, Jamie and his 2 Republican colleagues, Kathy Knight and Bob Randall, couldn't agree on much of anything. They submitted 4 plans between the 3 of them, with different totals for polling sites and early voting hours. But they did agree to carpool together to the State Board of Elections meeting.
All right, guys, first choice, should we take 40 or go?
That's where the Republican Majority Council was now going to decide for them, and for the other 32 counties that also couldn't agree on a plan.
Bob Randall? You guys could go in and have a seat, please.
This is what a partisan stalemate looks like outside of Washington, D.C. County after county goes up before the board to argue their case. Republicans push for limits to Sunday voting, early polling hours, and fewer polling sites, citing concerns about voter fraud and overworked election staff. And Democrats call it a disguised effort to discourage Black Democratic voters from casting ballots.
It was proven that their intentions were totally biased to try to keep the African American vote down.
Andra Cumber and Renee Smith wanted to keep an eye on the proceedings.
It's not a perfect system. And it's based on what human beings decide.
That's right.
So we're just going to stay in there and push. I personally wouldn't care if I had to stand in line 24 hours to vote. I've seen people do it for an iPod.
Not everyone had Renice and Andra's stamina. With the meeting pushing past lunch, Orange County was still way back on the docket.
I'm not bored at all, but I have a headache.
Democracy at work.
Yeah, this is the front lines of democracy. It's good stuff. But it gives me a headache.
Throughout the hours and hours of discussions, race and voting rights were barely mentioned until Franklin County got to the podium.
And I hate to use this word, but suppression, voter suppression, there seems to be a covert operation going on.
One of the people that was sitting, who I believe is on the council with you, just now used the term voter suppression. Like, why would he use a term like that in describing what's happening?
You know, I have no idea, and I would never try to speak to what's in somebody else's mind.
Well, but you do have conversations with him, like, as part of the council, right? Like, so what have those conversations been about? Has he brought up voter suppression?
We have never had a conversation that involved that term.
Why did you use that term, voter suppression? Because it seemed like you were hesitant to use it. Why did you end up saying it?
Because I have said it before in our board meeting, in our discussion.
And you've used the term voter suppression with him before.
And he didn't.
We just talked to him, and he said that, like, he had never had a conversation with you where that term had been used.
Yes, he did, because he told me I couldn't say that. And then
he told you that you couldn't use the term voter suppression.
And I told him this was America. I can say what I want to say.
Why would he ever tell you that you can use a term in the meeting? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't know why. Well, he didn't agree with it, and I told him that you don't have to agree with him, but in America, I don't say what I want to say.
By the time Orange County got its turn, nearly 12 hours after the meeting began, the state board had already selected plans for 27 other counties.
What I was trying to do was make a compromise to try to please everybody, which I found out you can't do.
We already know that.
The board cut speaking time for each county member to 1 minute, and even that seemed more like a courtesy.
All right, you two okay with that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can we get you on board? All right, well, it doesn't matter. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
In the end, Orange County walked away with essentially the same bipartisan plan they had agreed upon all along. Jamie got one more voting site, Kathy got the voting hours she wanted, and Sunday hours were not added, which was what Bob wanted. Do you think if you had gone earlier in the day that, like, maybe you would have had more chance to explain?
Possibly we could have explained.
And it may not have made any difference at all.
I'm not sure the result would have been any different.
But you would have felt better about having explained yourself.